Jansen Harris here with the final play on the Just Good Network. Joining me is Adam Holloway. He's going to start a new podcast soon with Mr. Hunter, Get Falcons Set. So you guys go check that out. We are also sponsored by Your Future Media. For all media purposes, visit Your Future Media. We know last season, Adam, that Dan Quinn and Thomas Dimitroff, they were fired. Falcons went 4-12. Prior season, 7-9, 7-9. Last 3 years haven't been good for the Falcons. In the playoffs in 2017, lost to the Eagles in that wild card round. Now, let me ask you this. Terry Fontenot, new general manager, Arthur Smith, new head coach from Tennessee. How important is this first draft for them?
It's first off, thanks for having me, Jansen. I really appreciate you inviting me on and doing my first podcast. It's kind of cool.
Thank you.
First off, it's imperative to hit any draft, but I think in the midst of a new regime, you kind of have to nail the first one. I think you put an emphasis on us being so high in the draft in each round, so you're picking in the first and it's a really high pick, top 5. You're picking in the second, it's almost like a late first. Picking in the third, it's almost like a late second. So you really have to, especially where the Falcons roster is so depleted at this point, that you have to hit on these mid-round guys. And Terry Fontenot did a good job of saying, look, man, like, we can hit on the first, but if we don't hit on the second, third, and fourth, it doesn't really mean nothing, right? I kind of allude to Kansas City and Tampa Bay. Everybody wants to talk about how good their O-line is. They only got 2 guys picked in the first round between the 2 of them. That's 10 starters, only two in the first round, right? So you have to. It's so important to hit on those mid-round guys and them be at least trending to be solid contributors, like in year 2 and 3 of what this regime's going to be doing.
Okay. See, Adam, another thing I wanted to point out too is I feel like you're pretty subjective when I see a lot of your tweets. Some of the stuff, it's not just one way. I feel like you give a lot of different options, and I really do respect that. That's why I invited you on. Let's talk about that number 4 pick. Where do you think the Falcons should go with the number 4 pick if you were taking that selection?
Like you said, I'm kind of subjective and I go different ways. I like to do mock drafts with different scenarios. In my study group on Twitter, we kind of bounced the idea of taking Kyle Pitts even at 4 just to see what the draft would look like. I know that might trigger a lot of people, but the draft is such an unknown that you just don't know, right? And Arthur Smith runs a lot of 12 personnel, so who's to say he doesn't want a super athletic freak like Kyle Pitts, right? Yeah. So I'm not saying that he's my first choice, but we just that's why I like my group, is because we run through so many scenarios that it's almost impossible for us to be caught off guard by a pick. But to answer your question in short, I really do think it's time to pick a QB. That's people are going to say, oh, you're just a Matt Ryan hater. And it's not really that. I like Matt Ryan. I have 3 of his jerseys. I'm a big fan. He's done wonders for the organization, but like the same thing as Roddy, like at some point you have to move on. I don't think it's definitely not going to be this year. It might not even be next year, but at some point you have to have the potential franchise guy, and what better choice in a QB rich draft a QB rich draft at the top end of it than to take a guy with loads of potential, and potentially you have your choice of the second QB off the board, depending what Miami and depending what the Jets do. So, and to be honest with you, the top 4 QBs to me, even though I'm a little bit lower on Zach Wilson than most guys, the top 4 QBs can play in this league at a good level. But to me, if Trey Lance, if Justin Fields, if one of those guys are there, I feel like just the traits they have and the way they fit in Arthur Smith's system, where there's a lot of option plays and there's a lot of bootleg and stuff, just getting outside of the pocket and working outside the pocket. I feel like those guys fit his system, especially given that they're going to get a year at least to be developed in. So, yeah, I do think I'm not really. I'm Ohio State fan. Sorry about that. I'm Ohio State fan, and hey, Spike. Sorry about that. I'm an Ohio State fan, and obviously, Justin Fields would be the dream, but I'm not going to bat an eye at Trey Lance or Zach Wilson, whether either one, right?
Absolutely. Let's take a look at free agency. A lot of free agents out there. We know the Falcons cap situation isn't the best, but let's keep it real, man. A lot of these GMs, and that's why they get some of these guys, they get the job. They're able to be flexible with the money that they do have in free agency. I like a couple guys on the list. Here's a couple notable guys that are out there, not saying they'll come in or even take pay cuts to come in or what their market value is, but you got a cornerback like Patrick Peterson, got a J.J. Watt. Everybody's talking about him at the DN position, even though he wants to go to a contender, and depends how you look at it. If you look at the Falcons as a playoff team, if you look at them as a 6-win team, there's a lot of – it just depends how you look at it, right? And you got a Bud Dupree outside linebacker. I know there's going to be a market for him, but maybe he could be a potential guy, or Kenyon Drake. I don't think Kenyon Drake would be expensive. So when you look at a lot of free agents, not just those guys, what are some realistic options you think for the Falcons in this 2021 free agency?
So I'm under the impression that you fill needs in free agency and you draft BPA and the draft. That's why I was so happy to hear Terry Fontenot say that. It's kind of fits what I like to do, but in terms of the way I've been looking at it as a whole, this is a deep safety free agent class. So I've kind of looked that way as I really, because Dean Pease really needs. He runs a lot of big nickel and big dime. I think from our findings in the studies, he runs a lot of 6 DBs on the field. So I mean, that's either safety or nickel. A lot. So yeah, I think safeties are imperative to Dean Pease scheme. So I think they're gonna. I really truly believe they're really gonna be gunning for a big time free safety. Whether that be like Marcus May, whether that be like Anthony Harris, and people are down on Anthony Harris because Vikings had him playing in the box a lot last year. That's not really his fit. So I think he'd be a better fit in Dean Pease style, where he's more of a free safety, or he can even single. I would say he can still single high. Even I think he's 29 or 30, so I think he could still do that. The dream is Marcus Williams from the Saints, obviously, that Terry Fontenot drafted him and he knows him. So he could play over the top. He could play everywhere. So I think he really is the dream. And ideally, you're probably going to, no matter what I think the Falcons are going to move on from Fowler. Unless they restructure him at a good point, I think designating him a post June 1st, I think it makes the most sense. You just save the most money. It kind of didn't work out. I understand. I was a big Fowler guy, so it hurts me to say it, but he just didn't fit in. And who knows? Maybe Pease wants him. He doesn't. But at that point, the Falcons got to get bodies at edge, whether it's like bet minimums or whether it's I've been screaming for Carl Lawson. He's a high pressure guy. He's not a high sack guy, but yeah.
Absolutely.
That's kind of where I'm thinking. That's safety, I think, is imperative for sure. Maybe a guard, maybe, but this is a deep interior O-line class. So
absolutely. I forgot to mention the guy I had on my list, Justin Simons. Maybe he could be a good fit. But hey, I wanted to ask you this. You're a youth football coach, right? And there's a new coaching staff with the Falcons. What are some of the things you've learned from coaching the youth that you think the Falcons could implement, their new coaching staff can implement with these players and get them motivated and win some more games this year?
The biggest thing for me, I'll just speak from my perspective, just being open and honest with people and players. If a guy had a bad year, tell him he had a bad year, because you want to be able to develop them and hold people accountable. That's like my biggest, you talk to anybody I actually talk to, or anybody I train with, or even my son. My son's 8, and I train with him all the time. Accountability is such a big thing for me. Tell me that you played bad. Tell me you played that play bad. Tell me you did something bad. So I just want the coaching staff in part to hold these guys accountable, because realistically, like we were 4-12 team, man. So you were a bad team. Players played bad. Like you're not a good team and you're 4-12. Like it's just this. It just doesn't make sense. No matter how many narratives you try to spin, you're a 4-12 team. You're a bad team. No matter, we have so many like half of the league is decided by one score games, right?
Yeah.
So it's the ability to close them and win them. So my biggest thing is come in, hold players accountable, hold yourself accountable. I think that was a huge thing for the last regime that they didn't really do, is they didn't hold them DQ in general. He didn't hold himself accountable, right? He kind of every single year we've seen somebody fired that he didn't say, you know what, I messed up. This was my fault. We're going to change it this way. So I feel like holding accountability is such a big thing for me. So I think if this staff holds everybody accountable and Terry Fontenot holds the roster as a whole accountable, I feel like we'll be in a way better spot than we were with DQ and company.
Absolutely. Thank you, Adam. We'll see. I know they could do better than 4-12 at the least, but we'll see how things play out. Adam Holloway, thank you for getting on. You guys check him out. It's coming out soon. Get Falcons Set. That's going to be the podcast. Also, go follow him on Twitter, Damsky32. He's a youth football coach. Go ask him his advice. A lot of interesting things he tweets out. He's pretty subjective. I like the different type of takes he takes on things. It's really interesting. So I appreciate you joining me today, man. Also, Your Future Media, that's who we're sponsored by for all media purposes. Go visit Your Future Media. Appreciate you guys there. Thank you, Adam, for coming on, man. I appreciate that.